speaker, Haley, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, let's call attention to Haley. Haley, you may begin.
Have you ever wanted to impress your friends and family with your amazing baking skills with just a small, quick, yet tasteful dessert? Well, today I will demonstrate to you how to make a great chocolate chip cookie. I've been making these cookies for over 10 years, and it's a very simple, easy, yet great dessert. Whenever you make these cookies, it helps boost your self-esteem because you make a tasteful creation. Plus, they fill your home with the luscious aroma of chocolate chip cookies. So today, I will demonstrate to you the 5 simple steps of making chocolate chip cookies, which are creaming the Crisco and the sugars, adding the vanilla and the egg, adding the flour, adding the chocolate chips, and then forming and baking the cookies. So let's get started. So our first step is creaming the Crisco and the sugar. What you want to make sure whenever you get out the Crisco, you want a ½ cup of Crisco, is to spray the inside of the cup so that whenever it comes out, you get all of the Crisco out, or else if you don't, then it tends to stick to the cup and you don't get the right amount that you need. So I always like to spray it with like cooking oil or put some oil in it or something like that. And then you just cream the mixture together. You use the shortening because if you use butter, it wouldn't get soft enough quick enough, and it helps hold it together a little better. You want it to get to a nice, even consistency. You want to kind of get rid of all the individual grains of the sugar, and it'll just become kind of light and fluffy, and it'll look a little creamy. So you're going to go from just Crisco to that, so it looks like that. Alright, so your next step is to add the vanilla and the egg, and you're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1 egg. You want to make sure to use pure vanilla extract. You don't want to use the artificial flavors because it really does make a difference in the flavor of the vanilla. So you just add 1 teaspoon. And then whenever you're cracking your egg, you really want to make sure not to get any of the eggshell in there. Nobody really likes to have the eggshell in their cookie. It's just not that delightful. So then you just mix that up. This mixture will become a lot smoother, a lot creamier. It'll become light and fluffy, and you can see it starting to come together. So there's what it'll look like. You can see it's kind of more malleable than it was before. It's starting to stick together and that sort of thing. So the next thing that you add after you've added the egg and the vanilla is the flour. And you add 1 cup of flour. What I normally like to do is make a hole in the batter and then put the flour in, because then it just seems to help keep the flour in there. And what I like to do is start out doing a hand mix with this, because if you just use the beaters, the flour will end up going everywhere, and then you'll end up with like ½ a cup of flour instead of a whole cup of flour and less cookies. So you want to try and mix these up with your hand as much as you can, because you just want as many cookies as you possibly can. I remember doing this with my mom the first time, and I was kind of amazed how much the flour actually made a difference in the texture of everything. So what you'll see is it'll start to be able to pull apart. Not pull apart, but pull apart from the bowl, and it's starting to act more like one ball of delicious goodness. So, and then the final, and my personal favorite, the best step, is adding your chocolate chips. It calls for 1 cup of chocolate chips, but if you get a bag about this size, it usually just takes a half a bag. So you just dump those right in there. And I don't like to use the mixer because sometimes it'll start chopping up the chocolate chips. So I like to just mix it up by hand too. It takes a little bit more time and a little bit more effort, but it's completely worth it in the end. Because if you chop up the chocolate chips, then you don't get to enjoy all the tiny little morsels. And that would just be terrible. It's the best part of chocolate chips. Alright. So then once you do that, you're good to go with that. And it'll end up looking something like this. You've got a lot of chocolate chips and a little dough. It's my favorite way to eat it. Alright, so then your next step is forming and baking. What you're going to do first is spray your pan because the chocolate morsels will end up sticking to the pan. So you just want to lightly spray your pan. It doesn't have to be really greased a whole lot or anything. If you don't have cooking spray, you can use like just oil or something like that. So then you get to forming your cookies. What I like to do is if you have a small spoon, usually just kind of get a spoonful, something like this, and then just kind of form it with your fingers. You kind of can't roll it in your hand like you would think with regular dough because it's kind of sticky and messy and it'll get everywhere, and so it's just easier if you do it like this with just the tips of your fingers. So you'll continue to do this. It says use about a teaspoon full of dough and stuff. Sometimes I use more, sometimes I use less, just whatever floats my boat at the time. So you continue doing this until you use up all of your dough, and then you put it in the oven in a 375-degree oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. You want to be sure and check it, especially if you're not used to your oven, or else you could burn the bottom of them, and then your chocolate chip cookies just aren't as good then. So you just kind of want to watch your oven and check on them as often as you can. So today I have shown you the 5 major steps of making a chocolate chip cookie, which are creaming the Crisco in the sugar, adding the vanilla and the egg, adding the flour, and then adding the chocolate chip, and then finally forming and baking the chocolate chip cookies. So imagine yourself treating your friends and family with chocolate chip cookies that they'll ask for over and over and over again. They're easy. It's an easy, delicious recipe that will allow you to have great cookies for a very long time. So, trying these cookies in compliments and empty plates will be making their way back home instead of full plates of dessert.
Good.